Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today is the disappearance day of Sri Jagadish Pandit and also the disappearance day of Srila Jiva Goswami. So we will read about both these Vaishnavacharyas. Sri Jagadish Pandit. So this is from Gauraganodesha Deepika. अपरे यज्ञ पत्न्यौ श्री जगदीश हिरण्यकौ एकादश्याययोरन्ना प्रार्थयित्वा घसत् प्रभुः. The wives of the sacrificing Brahmins in Vraja took birth as Jagadish and Hiranya. The Lord Mahaprabhu asked for and ate their prasad on the Ekadasi day. So this is from Gaur Ganodesha Deepika about the spiritual identity or the identity of Jagadish Pandit in the spiritual world in Golok Vrindavan. So Jagadish and Hiranya Pandit were brothers and they were the wives of the Brahmins who were performing sacrifice in Krishna Leela. आसीद् व्रजे चंद्रहासो नर्तको रसको विदः सोया नृत्य विनोदी श्री जगदीशाख्याः पंडितः. In Vraja there was a dancer named Chandrahasa who was very expert in the tasting of rasa. In Chaitanya Leela he became Jagadish Pandit who also took great pleasure in dancing for the Lord. Jagadish Pandit is considered to be simultaneously both Nityananda Shakha and Chaitanya Shakha. That is, he is both a branch of Sri Nityananda Prabhu as well as of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a branch both of Chaitanya as well as Nityananda in the desire tree of devotion. He was born in the town of Gauhati, Pragjyotishpur in modern Assam. His father's name was Kamalaksha Bhatta. Both of his parents were devotees of Vishnu. When they died, he came with his wife Dukkini and his brother Hiranya to Mayapur on the shores of the Ganga, where they built a home near that of Jagannath Mishra. Jagadish Pandit became Jagannath Mishra's very close friend. Jagadish and his wife Dukkini had the same kind of parental affection for little Nimai as Jagannath and Sachi themselves. Dukkini was like a mother to Nimai and even sometimes acted as his wet nurse. Nimai, the son of Sachi, is none other than the son of Yashoda, the Supreme Lord Krishna incarnate. It is not possible for anyone but an eternal associate of the Lord to have the good fortune to treat him like a son in this way. Nimai begs for Jagadish's offering. This pastime we read in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat also. Mahaprabhu showed through his pastimes just how dear he considered Jagadish Pandit to be. Shriman Mahaprabhu is the father of Sankirtan, and even as a child, he tricked everyone into chanting the holy names. Sachi and all the other neighbors would clap their hands and sing the names of the Lord in order to make him stop crying. One Ekadasi day, however, Nimai kept on crying despite Sachi Mata and Jagannath Mishra's chanting the names in the usual way. His parents became confused and anxious and in desperation asked him, "What do you want, child? What must we give you to make you to stop crying?" Nimai answered, "Today they have made a rice offering to Vishnu at Jagadish's house. I want to eat some of that prasad. Give me some of that prasad and I will stop crying." Jagannath Mishra was amazed to hear Nimai say such things. How could he know that Jagadish Pandit made a rice offering on Ekadasi? Jagannath Mishra immediately went to his neighbor's house and was surprised to see that a large offering had indeed been made to the Vishnu deity. Jagannath told Jagadish of Nimai's request, adding that he was worried that it would not be correct for him to eat rice on Ekadasi day. But Gauranga's eternal associate Jagadish Pandit knew that it was little Gopal in the form of Nimai who was hungry. Without any hesitation, he gave the entire offering to Jagannath Mishra. As soon as Nimai received the plate, he immediately stopped crying and joyfully started to eat. Jagadish Pandit and Hiranya are Chaitanya's branches of the desired tree of devotion. The merciful Lord gave them his grace when he was a little boy. He ate the offerings to Vishnu at their house on the Ekadasi day. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jagadish Pandit purifies the entire universe because the nectar of love for Krishna pours from him like torrents of rain. Also from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila chapter 11, text 30. The previous one was Adilila chapter 10, text 70 and 71. The above mentioned pastime is described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi Khanda, chapter 4. The Lord grabs the things of the devotee even if he doesn't offer them, but he shows no interest whatsoever in the gifts of the non devotee. Just as Mahaprabhu was conquered by the devotion of Jagadish Pandit, so too was his dearest companion Nityananda Prabhu, who considered him to be one of his own intimate associates. Nityananda Prabhu was Jagadish's life and soul. Jagadish was present in Panihati for the Chida Dahi Mahotsava. Jagadish and Jagannath. Before taking sannyas, Mahaprabhu ordered Jagadish to go to Nilachal to preach Krishna Bhakti and the religious practice of the age, Harinam Sankirtan. So before Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he sent Jagadish to Jagannath Puri to preach Krishna Bhakti and Harinam Sankirtan. The son of Nanda, Sri Krishna, and the son of Jagannath Mishra, Sri Gaur Sundar, are the same truth as Jagannath himself. When he arrived in Puri, Jagadish went for Jagannath's darshan and melted with love when he saw him. When on his way back to Bengal, however, he felt extreme separation from Jagannath. Thousands and thousands of people go on pilgrimage to Puri every single day. All of them take darshan of Jagannath, but how many of them are overcome by feelings of separation when returning home? Perhaps once in a while, some fortunate individual is able to feel such emotions. If one truly feels such pangs of separation, then this is a sign of Jagannath's mercy. If not, then one has not truly received the grace of the Lord. Jagannath Dev saw Jagadish crying and so mercifully appeared to him in a dream and told him to take his Vigraha and serve it. Simultaneously, he appeared to the king of Orissa and ordered him that at the time of the Navakalevara, when the wooden deity of Jagannath is changed, the outgoing form should be given to Jagadish Pandit. Thus, when he met Jagadish, the Maharaj considered it to be a great honor to give him Jagannath's outgoing form, which is known as the Samadhistha Vigraha. Samadhistha Vigraha. Jagadish prayed to Jagannath, asking him just how he could possibly carry the heavy figure of the deity all the way back to Bengal. Jagannath answered him that he would become as light as a cork. Jagadish should simply cover him with a new cloth and then carry him with the help of a staff. Jagadish would have to make permanent arrangements to stay wherever Jagannath was set down on the ground. Jagadish enlisted the aid of two Brahmins and they took turns carrying Jagannath as far as the village of Jashore on the banks of the Ganges near the town of Chakdaha. Jagadish left Jagannath with one of the Brahmins and went to take his bath in the Ganges. Suddenly, the Brahmin found that Jagannath was becoming very heavy and that he was no longer able to hold him up. Thus, when Jagadish came back from his bath, he saw Jagannath sitting on the ground and realized that the Lord wanted to stay in that very spot. Chakdaha is a historical site, an ancient holy place. During the Puranic age, it was known as Rathavarma. Pradyumna killed the demon Shambhara there during Krishna's incarnation at the end of the Dwapara age, and thus it was known as Pradyumna Nagar. Prior to that, when Bhagirath was bringing down the Ganga in order to save the Sagara dynasty, he buried the wheel of his chariot here, Chakdaha. Thus, the town was also given the name Chakradaha, which in time has been transformed into Chakdaha. It was Chakradaha, it became Chakdaha. When the local people heard that the Jagannath deity from Puri had come to stay in Jashore, they flocked there in their thousands to seek his darshan. This is how Jagadish decided to remain in Jashore rather than return to his home in Mayapur. Both Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the Jagannath temple in Jashore on two occasions, being attracted by Jagadish Pandit and his wife's parental devotion. They held Sankirtan and a feast both times. As the Lord was about to leave Jashore to go to Puri, Dukhini began to cry from the imminent separation so intensely that the Lord agreed to remain behind in the form of the Gaur Gopal deity. In the course of the couple's householder life, they had a son named Ramabhadra Goswami. The Jashore temple after Jagadish Pandit. At first, the deity was kept under a butter tree near the Ganges, and later the king of Krishnanagar, Krishna Chandra, had a temple built there for him. Jagadish Pandit's temple is currently being managed by the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Mutt. The very same Jagannath deity and Gaur Gopal who were worshipped by Nityananda Prabhu's dear associate, Jagadish Pandit, have displayed the wonderful pastime of voluntarily offering themselves to the great devotee, Tridandi Swami Srimad Bhakti Daita Madhava Maharaj, in order to accept his service. In the first year after taking over Jagannath service, so this is written by okay. But currently the temple is being managed by Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya, okay? And this is the Jagannath deity. The son of Nanda, Sri Krishna, and the son of Jagannath Mishra, Sri Gaur Sundar, are the same truth. So that was about Sri Jagadish Pandit. I'll see if there's any other details. Yeah, so it's the same thing. So let's read about Srila Jiva Goswami now. Today is also the disappearance day of Srila Jiva Goswami. Sri Sanatan, Sri Roop, and Sri Vallabha were three brothers, all employed in the service of the Badshah, Hussain Shah. Amongst the three, there was only one descendant, Sri Jiva. Having been rewarded richly by the Badshah for their services, their household life was very opulent. There was nothing lacking in whatever was necessary for the upbringing of the only son. The house was illuminated by the effulgence of the child's golden complexion. His eyes were like the expanded petals of the lotus. Every part of his body was graced with a lustrous, radiant splendor. When Sri Gaur Sundar came to Ramkeli, Sri Jiva was blessed by having darshan of his worshipable Lord, though he was just a baby at the time. Placing the dust of his lotus feet on the child's head, Mahaprabhu indicated him to be the future sovereign preceptor of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Though he was only a child, Sri Jiva kept the form of the Lord, which fascinates all the world, within his heart. As he grew up, while eating, lying down, in his dreams, while he was awake, at all times, he would meditate on that form. Later on, when his father and uncles renounced their family life in order to be with Mahaprabhu, the only child, Sri Jiva, was left with his mother in the family palace at Fatehabad. Lying in her lap, which was wet with tears of separation, he gradually began to grow as the waxing moon. Seeing that the mother and the child's face were always wet with tears, their friends also fell under the shadow of sadness and only with great difficulty managed to assuage their grief. Whenever Sri Jiva would remember his father and uncles or the lotus feet of Sri Gaurahari, he would lose consciousness and fall to the ground. As he got a little older, Sri Jiva took up the worship of the deities of Sri Sri Ramakrishna. He would carefully decorate them and offer bhoga and arati, serving them with his full attention. Even in his play, whatever games he played were connected with Sri Krishna's pastimes. While studying under the local Pandits, he became proficient in grammar, poetry, and rhetoric. Noting his great intellect, his teachers commented, "Such brilliance is not often found in a child so young as this. No doubt he will be a very high souled, saintly person." Even while engaged in his studies, Jiva always thought of Sri Sri Nitai Gauranga. Once he saw in a dream that Sri Ramakrishna had taken the forms of Nitai Gauranga and were dancing. We are 1732. Acha, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 1.732. Giving him the dust of their lotus feet, the two lords then disappeared. So in a dream, he saw that his deities turned into Gaur Nitai, and giving him the dust of their lotus feet, they disappeared. Having seen such a wonderful dream, Sri Jiva was consoled somewhat. Then he began to think, when will I be able to crawl out of this well of family life and devote my full time and energy, my very self, to serving these two most magnanimous lords? But he was the only son of the family. Only in his company could his mother forget somewhat the pangs of separation in her heart. When Sri Jiva learned that his father had given up his life on the banks of the Ganga, he was completely unsettled. After that, his eyes were never dry. The family members and friends tried to console him, but to little avail. Family life had become the source of his utter sadness. Someone suggested to Jiva to go to Navadvip and bathe himself in the coolness emanating from the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda Prabhu so that his mind and body, burning with grief, could be refreshed. Thus Sri Jiva set out for Navadvip with a group of pilgrims. Sorry, this is not Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this is Bhakti Ratnakar. BR means Bhakti Ratnakar 1.741. Nityananda Prabhu, the omniscient Lord, could understand that Sri Jiva was on his way to Navadvip. Therefore, he also left for there from Kadadaha. After a few days, Jiva arrived at Navadvip. Seeing the beauty of that place, he was charmed. Falling down on the ground, he offered his dandavats to Mother Ganges. Inquiring from the villagers the directions to Mayapur, he learned that Nityananda Prabhu was residing at Srivas Pandit's house. At last, arriving there, he fell down at the door to offer his dandavats. Nityananda Prabhu came out with Srivas Pandit and picked him up and embraced him, asking, "Are you the nephew of Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan?" As an answer, Jiva again fell down on the ground at the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu. This time, Nityananda Prabhu brought him in the house and began to inquire after the welfare of his family at Fatehabad. Then Sri Jiva was introduced to the devotees present in Navadvip. He offered his salutations at their lotus feet. Everyone was very happy to meet the nephew of Sri Rupa and Sanatan. That day, Sri Jiva received the remnants of Nityananda Prabhu's prasadam. The next day, the two of them came to Sachi Mata's house. Seeing the birthplace of Sri Gaur Sundar, which was filled with such splendor, Sri Jiva was greatly pacified and fell down on the ground to roll in the dust. In the large courtyard, the devotees were singing songs praising the glories of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Seeing Nityananda Prabhu, everyone stood up and then fell down, offering their dandavats at his lotus feet. Then Jiva saw Sachi Mata sitting on the veranda, dressed in white with silk chadar around her shoulders. She looked radiant, the white of her hair blending with her white sari. Though her body trembled with old age and was very thin, still the courtyard was illuminated by her divine effulgence. Forgetting herself in remembrance of Sri Gaur Sundar, she was sitting with her eyes closed. Becoming aware that Nityananda Prabhu had arrived, she covered her head with her sari and called her servant, Ishan, Shripad has arrived. Please wash his feet. After this was done, Nityananda offered namaskar to the mother of the Supreme Lord and took his seat. He then introduced Sri Jiva to her. Sachimata placed her hand on his head to bless him, and Sri Jiva floated in the ocean of happiness. Sachimata then requested the two of them to honor the Lord's prasad. Take prasad here at your mother's house today, my child. I offered these preparations in secret to Sri Gaurchandra. Sri Jiva spent some days with Nityananda Prabhu touring the 9 islands of Navadvip in order to have darshan of the holy places of the Lord's pastimes there. Then, as ordered by Nityananda Prabhu, he set out for Kashi, Varanasi. At Kashi, he studied Vedanta under Sri Madhusudan Vachaspati, a disciple of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. The conclusions of Vedanta contained in Srimad Bhagavatam that were expounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in Puri had been in turn taught by the Bhattacharya to Madhusudan Vachaspati, who established a toll at Kashi. From him, Sri Jiva mastered the same conclusions. From here, Sri Jiva set out for Sri Vrindavan, where he received shelter at the lotus feet of his two uncles, Sri Rupa and Sanatan. They were very pleased to see him and received from him all the news. Jiva stayed with Sri Rupa, who began to teach him Srimad Bhagavatam. After initiating him with the divine mantra, Rupa engaged him in the service of Sri Sri Radha Damodar. According to Sadhana Deepika, this deity of Damodar was fashioned by Rupa Goswami's own hand for his dear disciple, Sri Jiva. Sri Sri Radha Damodar are presently being worshipped in Jaipur, Rajasthan. Seeing that Jiva had quickly become conversant with the conclusion of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Rupa engaged him in proofreading his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. At this time, Srila Jiva compiled a commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu called Durgama Sangamani. Durgama Sangamani. In the year 1476 Shakabda, Sri Sanatan Goswami compiled Srila Sri Vaishnava Toshani, a commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which he gave to Sri Jiva for proofreading. Under the order of Sri Sanatan, Sri Jiva compiled a commentary on that named Laghu Vaishnava Toshani. So Sanatan Goswami's commentary of 10th canto is Sri Vaishnava Toshani, and on the order of Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami gives a commentary on Sanatan Goswami's commentary called Laghu Vaishnava Toshani in the year 1500 Shakabda. His writings, along with those of Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan, Sri Gopal Bhatta, Sri Raghunath Bhatta, Sri Raghunath Das, Sri Krishna Das, Sri Kashishwar Pandit, and Sri Madhu Pandit, completely captivated the learned men of that time. It was the beginning of a golden age at Sri Vrajadham. Sri Jiva regularly brought water for Sri Rupa and Sanatan's bath. He massaged their heads with oil, cleaned their ashram, worshipped the deity, cooked, and corrected manuscripts. After the disappearance of Sri Rupa and Sanatan, Sri Jiva continued the tradition that they had inaugurated. Once Sri Jiva traveled to Agra to debate with the Rajputs concerning the glories of Jamuna and Ganga rivers. He established that the Jamuna is more glorious than the Ganga, as the Ganga emanates from Krishna's lotus feet, whereas the Jamuna is his own consort. At this, the Mughal emperor was very much satisfied and wanted to present him something. Sri Jiva replied that he would accept some blank papers. So the emperor presented Jiva some stained paper. At that time, paper was very rare, and most manuscripts were usually composed on leaves. There is also a legend that once, when a Mughal emperor, possibly Akbar, wanted to confer something on the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they requested a farman, emperor's order, that no living beings would be killed within Vraja. As a result of this, no king would come to hunt there anymore. The disciple of Loknath Goswami, Narottam Das Thakur Mahashay, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami's disciple Srinivas Acharya Prabhu, and the disciple of Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu, Sri Shamanand Prabhu, were greatly favored by Srila Jiva Goswami. Under his tutelage, they studied all the literatures of the Goswamis. Later, he sent them to preach this knowledge in Bengal. Srila Jiva Goswami composed many literatures, amongst them Harinamamrita Vyakarana, Sutra Malika, Rasamrita Sesha, Gopala Virudavali, Sri Madhava Mahotsava, Sri Sankalpa Kalpa Vriksha, Brahma Samhita Tika, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Tika, Durgama Sangamani, Ujjwala Neelamani Tika, Lochana Rochani, Gopal Champu, Shat Sandarbha, Tattva Sandarbha, Bhagavat Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, Preeti Sandarbha. Together is called Shat Sandarbha. Srimad Bhagavat Tika called Krama Sandarbha. Laghu Vaishnava Toshani, 10th Canto Bhagavatam commentary. Sarva Sambadina, commentary on Shat Sandarbha. So he gives commentary on his own work. His work is the Shat Sandarbha, and he gives a commentary on Shat Sandarbha called Sarva Sambandina. Gopala Tapani Tika, Sri Sukha Bodhini. So, Gopala Tapani Tika, Sri Sukha Bodhini. Padma Puranastha Yoga Sara Stotra Tika, Gayatri Vyakhya Vivriti, a commentary on the Gayatri Mantra as described in the Agni Purana, chapters 216 to 217. Radha Krishnarjana Chandrika, Dhatu Sangraha, Bhavartha Suchaka Champu. So the birth appearance of Srila Jiva Goswami is on the 12th day of the bright fortnight in the month of Bhadra, September, and his disappearance is today. So this was in 1540 Shakabda, third day of the bright fortnight, Pausha. So that was the biography of Srila Jiva Goswami. There is another biography. If there is any more details which are not said here, we can read that. No, so that was it. Srila Jiva Goswami ki jai, Srila Jagadish Pandit ki jai. So, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.